John Katsomatidis joins me now. John, we've got Harris flip-flopping on fracking, and now this bipartisan group in Congress, including Democrats, they want to end Biden's pause on liquefied natural gas permits. Are the Democrats beginning to turn on energy, shift their position because it's an election year?
I believe during election years, everybody flip-flops. And I do business in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is a great state. And there's fracking is going on in Pennsylvania. The people on the Pennsylvania side of the border with New York State are driving Cadillacs. The people on the New York State side of the border are driving 55 Chevys. I mean, it's just crazy, you know.
But is the party, I mean, if you look at the big picture, are the Democrats just beginning to shift because it's an election year and they know we need fossil fuel energy?
Yes, they know we need fossil fuel energy. It's going to be prevalent all the way to 2050, 2060 and beyond. We have a zillion gallons, a zillion barrels around. And, you know, fossil fuel energy is not made by dinosaurs. That's all a fallacy. The planet Earth makes the oil, or makes the crude oil, because it uses the crude oil to take the plaques that balance the Earth to liquefy it. And that's the truth. It's not fossil fuels. And the truth is, wind energy is not going to work. Solar cells is not going to work. You're not going to run the United States of America on windmills and solar cells. That's obvious.
So when are the Democrats going to recognize that?
Well, they're starting to recognize
it and turn around energy policy?
They're starting to recognize it. I understand that SMRs, small modular reactors, that's going to be the future of America. And I've talked about it in the past. It's not going to happen tomorrow morning. I think the first installation will be maybe in 2030, 2031. And we may be in that business too. And the future of America is a transition from 100% oil to maybe 50% oil over the next 20 years, over the next 30 years. If you want to know the truth, that's the truth. Everything else is garbage.
Got it. John Katsomatidis, thanks for joining us, sir. Always appreciate it.
Thank you for so much.
See you again soon.
Kamala Harris flipping her stance on some top issues. The vice president claiming at a rally that she's actually tougher on the border than Trump.
Donald Trump, on the other hand, has been talking a big game about securing our border, but he does not walk the walk. Or as my friend Quavo would say, he does not walk it like he talks it. And when I am president, I will work to actually solve the problem.
And this comes as anonymous campaign officials are telling the New York Times that Harris all of a sudden supports fracking, wants to increase border funding, does not want to require selling assault weapons back to the government, and no longer supports a single-payer health insurance program. But Harris might have a hard time rebranding herself as a moderate because of these past statements.
There's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking. There's no question that we've got to critically re-examine ICE, and we need to probably think about starting from scratch.
What would you do about the millions of, specifically, assault weapons that are already in circulation?
We have to have a buyback program, and I support a mandatory buyback program.
You support the Medicare for All bill. I believe it will totally eliminate private insurance. So for people out there who like their insurance, they don't get to keep it?
Let's eliminate all of that. Let's move on.
Jesse, I was thinking today about how the media has tried, and Democrats have tried to superglue the Project 2025 project to Donald Trump. Even though he says he didn't have anything to do with it, he doesn't meet the people, he doesn't like them, he's disavowed it. But the media is basically erasing her past statements and saying that she doesn't have to deal with any of them.
I'm used to it. This could last forever.
Yeah.
I sometimes go from thinking it could be a landslide, and then the next day I wake up and I'm saying, oh my God, it's going to be a nail biter. Because she hasn't done a single interview since she's been the nominee. She hasn't done a real interview since May. And why would she do an interview next week? Why wouldn't she just wait until the convention, get the pop from the VP pick, get the pop from the convention. All of a sudden it's September, and you haven't answered anything. You haven't been asked about your flip-flops. You haven't been asked about your cover-ups. You haven't been asked who you are. And she could get away with it. It's the same hiding Biden. Now it's hiding Harris. And now it's just a sprint until November. Can she do this for 96 days? Probably. The media is not clamoring to get an interview. They want to keep her hidden. So this could go on forever. And I'm not concerned, Harold, but
you look it.
I'm paying attention.
Harold, should he be concerned?
Should Jesse be concerned about what's... I think so, for this reason. It's a good thing. It's a positive thing to be concerned, because I think when candidates on either side or both sides who are running have to think seriously and thoughtfully about, are they credible? Are they authentic? Are they consistent? And if they're not going to be consistent, voters have every right, and where I agree with Jesse wholeheartedly, is voters have every right to see the vice president, now the candidate, presumptive nominee for Democrats, come before the country and explain what was the change in position on fracking. How did that come about? And I actually think it's constructive when politicians have different opinions on issues as new facts and circumstances present themselves. I'd be curious to know, is it because the war in Ukraine has showed us that energy security, she thinks about it in a different way than she thought about it 5 or 6 years ago. If JD and Burgum and Marco Rubio, who all said very negative things about President Trump over the several years, can change, and I believe they did, how come she can't change? But I think the way you address that, and to Jesse's point, she should accept the debates, and the president should accept the debates that each of them are offering one another, because the country deserves to see Vice President Harris.
Trump kind of needs a debate because the media is not going to question her. He's got to do it. Can you guys
okay, I'm sorry.
I want to play call for number 3, because I think this is interesting. This is what she said she would do on day 1 if she wins, Judge.
Kamala Harris supports increasing the number of Border Patrol agents. Donald Trump blocked a bill to increase the number of Border Patrol agents.
The one that I wanted said, on day 1, I will work to take on price gouging and bring down costs. Okay? As if she's not part of the Biden-Harris administration that caused the inflation in the first place.
Well, and that's exactly the problem. She seems to forget that she is currently in office. And I find it so incredibly insulting that she says, when I am president, I will work to solve the problem of immigration, or the sound that we just heard. Are you kidding me? You were the border czar. And the fact that big tech or the mainstream media is playing games with the Democrat Party again, and don't you ever think they're going to change? And they're pulling out all indications of her being the border czar. I mean, you can't just change on a dime. Harold, it's one, let me finish.
Sure.
It's one thing to, say I'm for this and I'm for that in a debate, and they should debate. But she's got to sit down with someone and explain. Harold, you want to attribute to her some brilliant understanding as to why she evolved on the issues, like you mentioned Ukraine. The only thing I can think of is when she was in Ukraine was when they said to her, will you be taking any of the refugees from Ukraine? She was like, bleh, 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 bleh. And then the president of Poland started to respond, and she says, a friend in need is a friend indeed.
Is the United States willing to make a specific allocation for Ukrainian refugees? And for President Duda, I wanted to know if you think, and if you asked the United States to specifically accept more refugees.
Okay. A friend in need is a friend indeed.
Okay, I can first. Okay, so this time.
I mean, if you have a substantive reason you can give me for changing your position, I'll hear you. But otherwise, you're lying like Joe Biden came into office as a moderate when he was a progressive. The Trojan horse was full of progressives. They backed into the Oval Office, and they changed this country.
That's why they should have debates, and I'm glad you accept.
Thank you. I agree on the debate.
Do you accept Governor Burgum's explanation when he said,
I
would not do this?
don't care about Governor Burgum.
Of course you don't.
Not running for president.
Of course you don't. Of course you don't. I got it.
It's like Harris is like, all of a sudden she has her solo career, and she's left the.
She's just walking. She's just walking out of Van Halen.
Yeah, exactly.
Look, she's got to do one or two things. She's got to completely disavow the last 3.5 years, say it was a complete blank show, and she was handcuffed by progressives. And so when she gets into office, the first thing she's going to do is fire everyone from the old administration. That would be a flip-flop that everyone would be like, okay, maybe there's some truth to that. The problem is that she wants to own it. When you go in a speech and you say, if I'm elected, and if I was sitting there way back in the cheap seats and I raised my hand and said, a question, aren't you currently working there now? Couldn't you just call the old guy? It's not like you can't talk him into stuff. You know, just putting that out there. So couldn't you have all this stuff done between now and elections so it would just be easy because we're just seeing what it looks like? He only works the office from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. with a nap and a lunch in there.
10 to 4.
So pretty much I'm clocking in at 4:01, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm working the night shift till I'm elected, and I'm going to get things done. That would be great. But I don't think that's what's going to happen. And to Jesse's point, I am paying attention too.
Everyone's paying attention.
Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.
Disavow. Disavow. Crude oil. Crude oil. Fossil fuels. Fossil fuels. Fallacy. Fallacy. Zillion. Zillion. Prevalent. Prevalent. Clamor. Clamor. Nail biter. Nail biter. Flip-flop. Flip-flop. Walk the walk. Walk the walk. Substantive. Substantive. Attribute. Attribute.
If you enjoy this content, please consider subscribing to my channel to stay up to date with future videos. Thank you for watching.